Hello, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of Everything Actually with me, your host, Ashley Fisher. Today is episode 27. We are at 42 subscribers on YouTube. Once we hit 50, I'm throwing a banger. I'm baking a cake. I'm doing something. And 34 on Spotify, I believe. So, today's episode is going to be about me. And I'm doing this because I want people to. I feel like maybe if you understand my personality more, maybe that'll make more sense about why I am the way I am, why I'm like passionate about certain topics, why certain things intrigue me. I wrote it on my iPad that it was like super spaced out, kind of like that is. If you're watching the video version, it's a little messy. I would say color coordinated, but it's just colored, not coordinated. Um, and I started out being like, okay, I was born on this day, I was raised in this town, yada, 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 which I will be including just because I think that that's, like home base. Like, when were you born? Where were you born? Those are very basic things that I do still identify with. So, also another part of this, like, I'm obviously sharing only things that I identify with. And I texted my roommate Andrea and then my sister Tiffany. I texted Tiffany being like, hi, can you do me a favor? I'm going to record a pod and I need you to give me a description of what I'm like. I guess it can be your POV of me from a family dynamic. So you could, whoa, she just sent it. Yes, I can't wait to read it. But I was like, I guess it can be your POV of me from a family dynamic. So you can be like, she's a kind of a sister, but also like me just as a person. And she goes, okay, let me think. And then I said, they all need perspective. Okay, I'm going to text her back and be like, I'm recording right now. I'll read that live when it comes to it. Or should I say what my sister thinks of me first before I say what I think of me? I think we're going to do that, but first I'm going to say this is like the layout of the episode. So I say about me, my basic, like, my family dynamic, where I went to college, like, where I was born, what I was like in high school, things like that. And then I go into things that I like my interests. And then my mindset, which I think is also actually where I should start, because then I have the topic of why I made this podcast, which is kind of why I'm recording this, being like, okay, I made this podcast. This is what I believe. If you're interested in this, you should listen to my podcast, that type of thing. And I also have how I identify just like not quirky things about me, but Tiff said, oh boy, okay. I can't wait to read it. And then I have like some other hobbies. Let's start with what Tiffany said because I want to read it. Tiff goes, ah! The first line is so harsh. She goes, as a sister, I'd say bipolar, but loyal. You'll hate my guts 1 second and then be my best friend. And then in parentheses, she said, I'm not saying I'm innocent of this. And I'm going to comment on this. I agree with that wholeheartedly. I think it is because she's my sister, which makes sense why she's like from a sister dynamic. Because that I literally, when I got my hair cut yesterday, isn't it so cute? But I literally told my hairdresser, being like, my sister, like, I would take a bullet for her. And I've said this on the podcast before. But at the same time, I've never been like so angry, so done with somebody in my entire life than I have been with my sister at certain points. Like, she is the epitome of, like, for me, I guess kind of like my kryptonite, like a weakness for me, that it's like she just has a toll, a tug, a hand, like what's the word I'm looking for? Like an impact, like an effect, not the word, an influence. I think influence, it's not striking as that's the word, but like close. She's influential. Whatever. This is what I'm trying to say. Screw figuring out the word, unless I'm editing and I'm going to be like, this is what you were looking for. But she has access to every single one of my emotions. Like, from I love you, I would marry you, to I'm going to do some not nice things right now. Okay, so that's the first part. And then she goes, but at the end of the day, no matter how many arguments we get into and how many names we call each other, I know you have my back and we'll do in parentheses, almost, close parentheses, anything for me. I agree. As a stranger, I'd say intimidating at first, but once they approach you, very bubbly and chatty and fun. I also can agree to this. I feel like if people look at me, they might kind of be like, but then if they were like forced to talk to me, I feel like in the first 2 seconds of conversation, they'd be like, "Oh, she's cool." In general, I'd say you're argumentative, but not necessarily in a negative way. Maybe like a debate person. I can't think of the word. But like you'll debate over anything and have a strong argument even over the silliest things. I agree with that. Once again, not sure if it's like that she just sees the most of it because she's my sister. But I agree with that. Like if she's this like this isn't a literal example, but like for example, she'll be like, "Oh, let's get a square pie," which is okay. Have to preface this. I just recorded a New Jersey episode. A pie is like a whole thing of pizza. So if she says, "Okay, let's get a square pie," I'll be like, "It's not called a square pie. It's called a Sicilian pie." And she'll be like, "It's the same thing. You know what I was talking about?" And I'd be like, "No, but like it's Sicilian. Like just call it by its proper name." Which I know that doesn't paint me in the nicest light, but she's on point with that one. You always voice your opinion, which kind of goes with the last one, but I think it's great in the sense that you'll stick up for yourself and those you love if something is not right, no matter to who or about what, and I admire that. I feel like me personally, I'll bite my tongue in a lot of situations, but you'll speak your mind, and that's beautiful. I love that she ended it with being like, and that's beautiful. Which I know she meant it sweetly, but I'm just reading it as like, you're gonna start fights and good for you, but I could never. As a best friend, oh yeah, because as I said, I painted the question as how would you describe me in a family dynamic versus in a friend dynamic. As a best friend, you're genuinely so full of love and fun. Like no matter what we do, I know you're gonna make it into a fun time. I get that a lot, not to like brag or anything, but like I've like heard that in high school that people are like, "Oh, if I want someone fun to hang out with, like I'm gonna hit you up." I do think you're very short tempered and get triggered easily. Tiffany is writing this episode right now. You definitely get easily upset, but I think you've come a long way with communicating it for the most part. Again, with speaking your mind, you'll stick up for yourself and say how you feel about a situation. Most times, however, I feel like you struggle to see the other POV, which we have had a convo about before, whether in an argument or debate. IDK if it is necessarily is like an "I'm right, you're wrong" end of discussion attitude, but I think you just don't care to hear the other side, even though I think it may benefit you at times. To defend myself a little in this, not saying I disagree. She is hitting the nail on the head with every single one of these points, but I think that she sees the worst of it. Like, I'll be meaner to my sister than I will to other people. And I'm not saying it's right. I agree. This is wrong of me. This is something I should work on. But I almost think, like, from not to shit on my sister, but since she is the youngest, I noticed that she kind of will, like, take charge in situations with my parents. And I'm kind of like, that's not the right, like, that. Why are you going about it that way? This would be so much easier if you just did this. Like, why are you telling them to do that? And then she, like, I can see what she's saying, being like, well, I don't see the like suggestion that she was giving. I don't see like the path that she saw. That I don't know. Because I do, as a Libra, which is one of like my self-identifying things I'll go into later, I do like to think I see the other side. Another part kind of connecting with it is that I used to be really bad at taking criticism, and I didn't even realize I was holding the mic like that. Sorry. I used to be really bad at taking criticism, and now I know that it's usually from. I'm still pretty defensive when it comes down to it. Like if somebody says like, "Oh, you're doing this wrong, do it that way." I do think that I like being coddled in a sense that it's like, hey, don't you think this way would be better? But I know not everybody thinks to communicate in a softer tone, which once again, it's how the world works. Like I'm not saying it's wrong. I guess to wrap that section up, how I'm working on it is being like, I don't need, the other person doesn't need to be right, which I've gotten better at because I used to be more of, I guess, a smart ass that it's like, sometimes people will say something and I'll disagree with it, but I won't say anything because I'm like, not my circus, not my monkeys. Like, they'll be preaching on and on and on about something, and I'll just bite my tongue because I'm like, I'm not saying that's the right opinion, but also I'm not about to start something. She goes, I think you stress yourself out very easily by overthinking and you get overstimulated a lot. But even when you're going through your own things, you look out for your loved ones. Yeah, I'm a very emotional, I don't want to say crazy person, but just like I get what she's saying. As your sister slash best friend, that's so sweet. I think this goes for anyone that you love. I know I can text you at any time if I'm struggling and you'll answer once you see it or call and just listen to me rant for hours. You're very loyal and honest. You don't cross those that you love and care about. You're there for them through thick and thin. I agree with that. You can call me at 3 a.m. and if I have like even if I don't answer the call because I'm like, why are you calling me at 3 a.m.? I will text you and be like, hey, I'm in bed right now. Do you need something? And if you're like, yeah, I'm really going through it, I'm dialing. I'm hitting you up. So that's really sweet. As your sister, I know that no matter what happens, you'll always be the person closest to me. And whether it's been a day, months, or years since we last talked, although I hope it never goes that long without talking, better not. We will always be sisters and we'll be able to pick up where we left off. I love you and I hope that that's what you were looking for. Sorry, that's like a lot of IDK if I started rambling. Okay, honestly, that literally took up like 10 minutes of the episode, and I kind of have a lot to go through, but maybe I'll make it a speed round because, like, I knew this was going to happen. When I talk about myself, I could talk about myself for hours and hours and hours and hours. I could talk about anything for hours, but like myself, especially forever. So I think instead of like deep diving into everything, I'm just gonna like give it more as bullets because I kind of deep dove into that. But I think that okay. Also, I didn't even say this. If you guys don't know Tiffany, so she's my younger sister. She's 20 years old. I'm 22 years old. So we're very close in age. I'll insert a picture of us like right over here. Yeah, long story short, I feel like the POV of what my sister has to say about me is more interesting than anything I could say about myself. Because those were good, like, those were good points. I think that just says, like, me as a person. She's pointing out my flaws, but being like, there, like, to sum up what I think she said, my biggest flaw is that, like, I don't always see the other side of things, and I like to think that I'm always right. The middle point is that I'm argumentative, which can be good and bad. It's like I stick up for myself, but it's also sometimes I always just need to say my piece just to say my piece. And then the good part that I kept hearing was that I'm super loyal. Okay, going into the bullets at 15 minutes in, which is actually so scary. So we're going to start with let's go with what I identify as. Gets along with everyone, but only open up to a few. Once someone F's up, it's hard to get back on my good side. For girls, I really haven't had like a girlfriend do me really dirty or anything. But for boys, like if I'm dating a guy and he like cancels on me one night, I'm immediately like, okay, we're done. Like, we're done. You're literally gonna have to like buy us Euro tickets or some shit for me to forgive you. Which I feel like sounds really wrong of me. Like, it sounds like I need to develop a lot, but that is literally how I am. Like, if you mess up, I'm kind of like, I'm easy to trust people. Like, once we form a relationship, I will openly love you. I will openly tell you everything about myself. But the second that you mess up, you're going to notice a switch. It's like I'll be texting you 24/7, and then you mess up, and it's like you'll get a text from me like once every 3 days. Like, it is that quick of a switch. I identify as outgoing, talkative, curious. I've always been the type to ask a million questions. Keeps up with appearances. I included this because I'm very like, I care about what I look like, so I always like I make sure I shower, I make sure my hair is not super oily, I make sure at least like my lashes are done or I have a little makeup on or I have jewelry on. Like I like to make sure that I look good. Takes chances for what I want. I think like me going to college in Florida was like taking a chance, you know what I mean? And even like doing this with the podcast, it's taking a chance. Like, I think I'm more the type to do things that aren't as like conventional, like on the path, on the safe route, whatever. Goal oriented, I'm very big about being like, I would like to get better about being like statistical with it, being like, okay, I'm gonna have 30 episodes by this day, I'm gonna have X subscribers by this day, like things like that. But I'm very, I want to have a podcast. I want my life to look like this, like on Pinterest, on vision boards, always like thinking about my future, manifest, like very goal oriented in that sense. Hopeless romantic. I always have a crush, guys. If like one of my girlfriends is like, so like, you dating anyone? Are you talking to anyone? The answer is always yes. Some of these things I'm saying, I'm like, I'm not the proudest of, but I'm being so honest that like, that's the truth. And if there's, I remember a little fun story time, which he needs a whole different thing. I was dating this military guy my freshman year when I was studying abroad. We broke up, and literally for like a week, 2 weeks, definitely not that long. It was definitely like 3 to 5 days. But I was like, I don't have any crushes. I'm not Snapchatting anybody. I'm not hoping anybody looks at my story. Like, I had no men. And I was like, damn. And another fun thing, I saw something that I was like, I'm pretty sure it was creative people, but it was like, I want to be like people like me. Like, I identified as it, but I don't totally remember what it said. But I think it said creative people. And it was like, they're more likely to have crushes all the time because they like to like fantasize and romanticize everything and distract themselves and put themselves into this world. But it's like, instead of putting yourself into that like love romance realm, you can lock into something else. So I can lock into like working on my podcast, working on any project, like, and that would be better for myself. But it's like, I always am just invested in a man. So whatever. Spend 3+ hours getting ready, 4 hours specifically. Yeah, since college, since high school, honestly, if I was going to like a party or something, I want 4 hours to get ready. I want to shower, I want to shave, I want to make TikToks, I want my hair to dry, I want to do my hair, I want to do my makeup, I want to have time to pregame. Like, I need that time. And the last one I said, I identify as an older sister slash middle child, which, like, as all the traits my sister said, like, I just identify as an older sister. And then my mindset, which is going to get into like why I made this podcast. Number one, obstacles are needed for growth. You know, when you're really struggling in life and you're like, nothing is going right, it's because you're growing and something better is happening after that. I believe that every single time. Every single time that I've gone through such a rough patch in my life, not that I enjoyed it by any means while I was going through it, but it's always like worked out for the better. I've always been better afterwards. Number two, you can only stay stuck for so long before you're pushed. I'll spit this out real quick. My situation now, my last job, I got fired from. And then I was trying to like find other jobs, applying to like 20+ jobs. Nothing was working out for me. And I'm like, why? I'm putting in the work, I'm putting in the hours, I'm doing what I'm supposed to. And because of all of that, since it didn't work out, I'm moving back home to New Jersey when my lease ends in September. I really think that going home is going to be great for me. And I think that like all of those really bad, hard things had to happen to me. Because if I would have, let's say I never got fired from that job and I kept working there, I would have re-signed my lease here. Let's say I got fired from that job and then found a new job, then I would have re-signed my lease here. So it's like everything needed to work out for me not to stay in Tampa, Florida. You know what I mean? All right, next one. Something better will always come. This goes from everything. If you apply for a job and you don't get it, your next job is going to be your favorite job. Let's say you have a boyfriend and you break up and you're like, "Oh my god, he was the love of my life." I promise you'll find somebody new, somebody better. Like, every time, it's not rejection, it's redirection. That type of thing that I wholeheartedly believe. I feel like a lot of my beliefs are generally, when something bad happens, it's because something better is going to happen. And I think that's because I've lived it and that's what's gotten me through it. Human connection is magic. I made a whole episode on, what is it? The need for connection, the need for human connection, something like that. It's an earlier episode. And I just like, I would rather be dirt poor and in love with somebody than be living in a mansion and have like a sugar daddy that doesn't give any care for me. You know what I mean? Like, and I think like, especially female relationships, friendships, even like sisterhood, the connection I have with my sister, the bond I have with my parents, like, I think that stuff is literally magical. Like, the way that you can talk to somebody, see, this is what I think I'm like passionate about. You like, you can sit down, and this is another belief that I think everybody has value, which is another completely different episode that I've already recorded. But everybody's valuable. If you sit down with anybody and have a conversation, you can learn something from that. And I think that's beautiful. Everybody has such different beliefs and backgrounds and experiences that just like it is a superpower to be able to communicate it. Like, I think me being super outgoing, super able to talk to anybody is a gift because how I see human connection is such a beautiful thing. I'm able to connect with strangers, which not everybody can do. But I can go on and on and on about that. I think like human connection is the most important thing in the world. You could have literally nothing else, but if you have your person, everything will be a million times better. Everyone is projecting. This is something that I constantly say. Just that it's like if I'm like, "Oh my god, I hate your outfit. That is so ugly." I'm probably saying it because I don't have the confidence to dress how I want to, or I wish that I could wear the outfit you're wearing, but for whatever reason, I don't like my how my body would look in it. You know what I mean? Like it's or if somebody honks at you in traffic, like maybe you did do something a little wrong, but if they're like rearing, like slamming their horn, that's because they're having a bad day and they're just projecting it onto you. Which once again is another mindset shift that has brought me so much peace in life because I'm like, it's really not me. If somebody's attacking me, I'm like, you must be really miserable. Because to flip it back to me, that's how I am. If I'm flipping out on somebody, it's because I probably was about to cry 10 minutes before I had this conversation. And it has nothing to do with you and everything to do with me. You can do slash be whatever slash whoever you want. I say chase your dreams. It's like you're only confining yourself. Like if there's definitely a quote that can wrap up what I'm trying to say so perfectly, but it's like you can only go as far as you can see yourself going. You know what I mean? If you're like, oh, I can do this. I feel like I'm destined for this. And then you're going to start working towards it versus somebody who's confining their reality because of their thoughts. And then the last one, to have something you've never had, you need to do something you've never done. This is just a little piece of motivation, and it also makes so much sense because it's like, duh. Like, I honestly don't even think I really want to elaborate on that one. That one's just like, obviously. I'm wondering if I should just stop it there because my other points were just saying I'll literally sum it up if you are interested in this, but I also kind of I don't know. Yeah, I'll spit it out like super duper quick. I was born October 9th, 2002 in South River, New Jersey. There was either 114 or 144 kids in my class. It was a very small public high school. And I either graduated in the top 20 or the top 25 because I was either number 24 or 14, but I can't remember. I played softball, cheer, basketball, and soccer in high school. Back to my birthday. So my sun is a Libra, my moon and rising are Sagittarius. And these are like the traits that ChatGPT says goes with it that I identify with. Charming, magnetic, sees both sides of situations, independent, I like deep conversations, I'm opinionated, I'm curious, I'm spontaneous, passionate, and a hopeless romantic. I grew up with my two parents and my two siblings and a dog. I grew up in Catholic school from pre-K to 5th grade, and then I transferred to public school because all my best friends in Catholic school were transferring to public school, but they were all from a different town than me. So I transferred, like, I was the new girl who knew maybe like a few girls from Girl Scouts or something. Then I went to college at FSU in Tallahassee, studied abroad in Florence, Italy. I was in Kappa Kappa Gamma sorority as of my junior year. I majored in editing, writing, and media, which is kind of like journalism, kind of like communications. My extracurriculars, I was a part of, there was a radio station on campus and I broadcasted for sports and news. I was in Her Campus, which is like a journalism, like an online thing. Look it up. Her Campus is actually so cool and it's on a bunch of different college campuses, but they also have like their main brand. I was a part of the Tallahassee Women's Magazine, Kudzu Review, which was once again like a reading and writing. Like people would submit. One year I was a part of poetry. Another year I think I was a part of fiction. People would submit their short stories or whatever, and we would all like get together and review them and say if they should be in the magazine that like that next issue's magazine or not. And then intramural sports, I did soccer and basketball for like a little bit. Things that I like Italian culture, true crime, podcast, self-help and philosophy. And some of my favorite movies are like American Psycho, John Wick 1, 2, and I got halfway through the third one. Minority Report. I really like action movies as well as scary movies, horror movies. Criminal Minds is my favorite show. I just started not rewatching. I'm watching Supernatural, which I started years ago and then I stopped. And I'm pretty sure I got up to like season 4, but I'm starting at season 3 because I was watching season 1 recap, season 2 recap, season 3 recap. And season 3, episode 1 is about the 7 deadly sins, which another thing, I'm really into like art history and just history and like supernatural things. So I thought like the 7 deadly sins was so interesting. So I was like, okay, I'm going to start here because I don't really remember it. I said I would link my Spotify and my Letterboxd if you want to hear like the music I listen to and the movies that I've watched, because literally once I finish any movie, I'm throwing it on Letterboxd. And then I wrote some other hobbies. I like drawing. That's what that whole wall is. I go on Pinterest and then I like kind of like weird drawings and then I'll draw them and then hang them around my room. I've been doing that for literally ever. Rearranging my room. When I used to live at home in New Jersey, rearranged my room a million times. In college, I rearranged my room out of like the 3 years I was in that apartment like 5 times. And then I've been here for like a year and I've rearranged it maybe like 2 or 3 times. So I've just always, like, I always do that. Reading, I do like to read. I had to read a lot as a EWM major. And then TikToking, I post a lot of TikToks. I want to blow up on there. And it's like fun for me. Also I like in particular wore this shirt, my Lions Fountain Firenze, which is Florence. Yeah, it was a Irish pub in Florence when I studied abroad. That was like we were there literally every other day. So I was gonna wear an FSU shirt, but this one was cuter. All right, guys. That was kind of long and not at all how I thought it was gonna go. I obviously my sister told me her POV of me, and I like got caught up in that, being like, and as I said, she hit the nail on the head with all of them. She was not wrong, and I can take it on my chin. You know what I mean? I was gonna go more into like favorite movies, favorite songs. I used to be super into like dolls, American Girl dolls. I used to want to be a hairdresser. That was like my first dream job. Um, but yeah, I was just gonna go into more of like what I was like as a child. But I still think that what my sister said literally was like so important, and that kind of painted me as a person. I'm not really sure what I want you guys to take away from this. I just kind of want you to see me more, not wholeheartedly, but like all of me. Obviously, not even obviously, because I'm not like this. I was gonna say I feel like you would think people come on to their social media platform and it's like they're only gonna show the good sides of themselves. I make it a point in my podcast to show, I don't want to say the ugly sides of myself, but the things that I know I need to work on. So I think that for me to be able to say like I'm argumentative sometimes, I don't always see the other POV sometimes, just shows that I know I have so much more to work on and that I'm not perfect, and that this podcast is meant to like reflect on myself and also see growth. All right, guys. Thanks for listening. Thanks for joining. And thank you for everything, actually. Bye, sexies.